Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Patriot Underground. Today is Sunday, September 26, 2021. And as you probably would expect, I'm on another coffee chat run this morning. So thank you for joining me. I really do appreciate it. So I'm going to be just giving you my thoughts, folks. I mean, so many things have transpired this week. Of course, yesterday I talked about the audits and how historic and what that means. And of course, as always, there are a whole bunch of people out there who are, disappointed, and they're spreading what they like to call FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And I just wanted to comment on that because I think it's important for us, on the one hand, to recognize our frustration and to acknowledge it, and to, I've many times I've given voice to it. I think it's important to do that. And I also think it's important to give our fears and our doubts and our insecurities and all of those things. We have to be willing to acknowledge those things and express them. However, it needs to be balanced out with a realistic attitude. I think a lot of people were expecting that the lights were just going to go out yesterday, the EBS was going to come on, and all the comms were going to come down, and it was going to be that type of a situation where they were just going to, the military was just simply going to move in. It takes time for things to develop, okay? And you have to remember that this is all a pantomime. You have to remember that when Doug Ducey, this guy, not that this should surprise anybody, but when he comes out and says there's not going to be any, decertification of the election and the election is over. And look, folks, these people are the usual suspects. What did you expect that they were going to say? It's just like when Maricopa County was tweeting while Ben Cotton and while Dr. Shiva were presenting. Did you really think that they were just going to cave in? Did you really think that they were just going to say, oh, yeah, you got us, and not try to continually spread propaganda and lies and not try to gaslight the public the way they always do? People need to get to a point, and again, I don't think it's members of this audience. What I'm referring to, by the way, I probably should have prefaced this, but, just going on Telegram and, reading through different posts and different comments. And look, I understand a lot of these posts are, bots and shills and things like that. But I do believe that there are a lot of people out there who are, patriots, but get way, way, way too discouraged over situations unnecessarily. I'm still looking at what happened on Friday, that audit report, which, by the way, I don't even think is completed yet. I think it's just a small fraction of what they have. Not only that, I do believe that the Space Force and Trump, and they already have all of the evidence. They already have everything that they need, I firmly believe, to be able to go after these people. But this has to play out in the public domain, and it has to be, or at least it should be, an effort that is driven by the people. That's what Trump, the White Hats, that's what Q have been indicating to us. General Flynn has been saying this. It needs to be played out in the public domain amongst we the people, and we need to be the ones who are the tip of the spear driving it. That doesn't mean that behind the scenes things aren't going on. Of course they are. They've been this entire time. But in this simulation, in this, the one thing that this pantomime is not a simulation of, it's not a simulation of some sort of apathy that we should sit back there and we should just be comfortable that everything is just going to be fine and the White Hats are going to come to the rescue. That's one thing that this pantomime is. It's not. There are a lot of things that we see on the surface that are very, very deceptive and are not true. I talk about this all the time, but the one thing that I do believe is very, very true about this pantomime, that is not an illusion, it's not an act, and it's not a game, is that patriots cannot be apathetic, and we have to get off the sidelines, and we have to be the ones who drive this thing home. Now, where is this all going to lead? I do believe that what we're experiencing is devolution, in the sense that all of these efforts to reverse the election, to expose the fraud, all of these efforts, I do believe, at some level, at some level, are doomed to fail because they're supposed to fail, so that the people can understand and experience what it's like when you have a completely broken system. They need to experience, we need to experience, because I think there are a lot of people out there who still believe that we have some sort of chance at justice, some sort of chance to reverse this mess that we're in the system that we currently have. And the big part of this pantomime is to get people to understand that that ain't happening, baby. This system is broken. But people don't believe it. You tell people that a million different ways, 6 ways from Sunday. You try to explain how broken and corrupt the system is. People don't believe it. They don't believe it. So you have to you know what? You don't believe it? Fine. Go ahead and live through it. And that's where we're at right now. I mean, let's be honest, folks. If we were paying attention, if we weren't apathetic, despite all of the enemy attacks, despite all the silent weapons, if we had been paying attention and we had been united and we hadn't just completely gone off the deep end with this propaganda and this identity politics and all of this bullshit, if none of that stuff ever happened, we wouldn't be here right now, because we would have recognized long ago that this system was deeply corrupt and broken. But more than that, it was our responsibility to fix it. And because we didn't do that, that's why we are where we are right now. Collectively, we did not do our duty, our civic duty. We didn't pay attention. We let go of the steering wheel. We let someone else decide and make all the decisions, make all the laws, all the regulations, and we sat back there. And you want to talk about eating popcorn? We were eating popcorn. We were enjoying the show while they built this entire prison, this prison planet around us. I mean, we can't look at ourselves entirely as victims here. We were part of the problem. And so, yes, we have to suffer now. We have to go through this hell to wake people up. But beyond that, to get people to understand once and for all that there is only one reality. There's a million different illusions. There's a million different, perceptions and deceptions and propagandized people out there. But there's really only one reality, the way that the world really works. And the only way that the world really works, if you want to be free and you don't want to be a slave and you don't want to live under tyranny, is you have to step up and you have to accept responsibility that you are a part of that system. You are a pillar that is holding that system up as an individual citizen. And there's no such thing as a free lunch. If you invite someone else in to start making all the decisions and you let go of the steering wheel, and worse than that, you fall asleep in the passenger seat, this is what you get. So yes, I do think that, with this audit situation, look, I'm celebrating the fact that this information came out into the public domain. Why am I celebrating that? Is it because I believe that somehow we're going to get justice in this system now? That all of a sudden this is going to go to, that it's going to be a successful, smooth ride to decertify this election? Do I think it's even possible that the election is going to be decertified? Well, maybe after we see some military intervention, but certainly not before, certainly not with our system, our corrupt system the way it is. Now, I could be wrong, but I would certainly be shocked if I were wrong. I mean, listen, every single initiative, every single effort, every single time the good guys, we the people, try to get some justice, it seems as if we're thwarted at every turn. Sure, we have a win here, a win there, but ultimately, we're the ones who are constantly getting oppressed. They're the ones who are constantly on the offensive with their foot on our throat. And we never seem to be able to get any sort of resolution to that, any sort of justice, any sort of reprieve. And so now all of a sudden we're expecting that we're going to? No, that's not why I'm celebrating it. I'm celebrating it because it came out into the public eye, and more people are going to be made aware of the truth. But that doesn't mean that we're necessarily going to just see justice in our system. This is about devolution. This is about the old guard being destroyed, being taken apart. We're entering into not only just a new system, but a new earth, a new universe even. I mean, I've discussed all of these possibilities, but folks, this system has to go. And I think a big part of this pantomime is really exactly that. It's the destruction of the old guard on purpose, a controlled demolition. And part of that is going to be, I think, watching our entire republic fall apart so that something better can be rebuilt. So the people out there, I think it's important to have this discussion because, a lot of folks are getting caught up in what their expectations are now that the Arizona audit findings have been made public. People are once again getting very, very upset because they're not seeing things happen and they're not seeing movement fast enough. And regardless of the way you think that this is going to turn out, it's still going to take time. And it's going to be unpredictable. And when are the White Hats actually going to make their move? What did Trump tell us the entire time? They were never, ever, ever going to telegraph when they would attack. But attack we will. Remember he said that? What do you think he was really talking about? And that's the other thing. It's amazing because I think the listeners of this show are the people who understand, when Trump is communicating with us directly and when he's playing a role, you see, and throwing off the enemy. See, Trump is a genius. And he does tell the people exactly what they need to hear and want to hear. They just have to have the ears and they have to listen and they have to pay attention and they have to sift through all the other things that Trump is saying that are there, that he's saying primarily so that he can throw off the enemy. He can make it seem as if everything on one level is okay, that nothing is really happening. And from the enemy perspective, when he talks about, the elections in 2022, the election in 2024. Now, Trump knows that the people don't really want to hear about 2022. And we certainly don't want to hear about 2024. We want to hear about 2020. But he does talk about 2020, you see. And there were a couple of times last night in his speech, which was amazing. I mean, this guy is the president, for God's sake. Look at him, folks. Look at the energy. Look at the charisma. Look at the body language. You're telling me that that's not the leader of the free world? That that's not the man that's commanding the militaries of 23 countries? Does that man look at, did Trump even remotely look concerned last night? He looked perfectly at ease, despite the horrible things that he was saying, of course, reflecting the reality. Well, maybe not so much the reality, but the pantomime, the reality of this pantomime. Despite discussing all this stuff, he didn't seem worried to me. And what did he say about the 2020 election? He said, and this is not an exact quote, of course, I'm driving around in my car here. But he said, Chris, all of talking about his advisors telling him to, put it behind you, sir. Move on from 2020. Focus on 2024 or 2022 or whatever. And Trump said, if you don't look back to 2020, you're never going to win in the future. Now, what does that tell you? Does that sound like someone who's letting it go? He's telling us exactly the way it is, folks. If we don't have justice for 2020, and 2020 is allowed to stand, that this country and freedom all over the world is done. That's what Trump is telling us. We're never going to win in the future. Of course we're not going to win in the future. If you can't win with the most popular president of all time, who are you going to win with? And not only that, he said, what we've been doing is very important, but what we're going to do is the most important of all. Now, what do you think he's talking about? You think he's talking about some future election? I don't, because he just got done telling you that the future elections don't matter until this one gets sorted out. He's not talking about future elections. He's talking about what's coming, folks. Nothing can stop what's coming. Trump is telling us what we're going to do. He didn't say what we might do, what we're trying to do, what we're working on. No. What we're going to do is the most important of all. Okay? And he said that. So people need to learn, again, not so much this audience, because again, in some ways I preach to the choir because you all know this, but there are a lot of Trump supporters out there. There are a lot of good people out there who still haven't learned how Trump communicates. And they still haven't learned to sift through and discern and to be able to identify what they really need to listen to versus what they need to dismiss as a part of the pantomime. You may not be able to understand every single thing that's going on. I certainly don't. I can't make sense of every single thing that's happening and put it into some perfect little box and make it all make sense. There are a lot of unanswered questions. Why? Because there's fog of war, folks. It's supposed to be this way. This is a psychological battle. This is asymmetrical warfare. This is information war. Did you really think that it was going to be easy to figure out exactly what's going on? Of course not. Nobody's got it all figured out. That's not the point. But we understand. The more time goes on, the more we understand when we're being given direct communication from our leader, from our commander-in-chief. And he's telling us what's coming. And he's telling us that it's the most important thing of all. And he's telling us that nothing in the future matters until we get justice for what happened, for what was stolen. And that is what we need to hang our hat on, folks. The rest of the stuff, it's all noise. You know, people get upset about these rhinos and all of these cabal plants, exposing themselves. Listen, this is exactly part of the plan as well. Don't you think the people need to see it? Who Ducey really is, who Kemp really is. I mean, Trump ripped Kemp a new one last night, and thank God. What a cowardly piece of crap he is. What a coward. But it's not even that he's a coward, you see. He's cabal. They all are, folks. All of these people are on the same freaking team. And people, so it's like Trump understands. He understands us, of course, the people who are really awake. And he communicates with us, but he also needs to communicate to the people who are still watching Fox News, who are still existing on this plane where they still think that it's about Republican versus Democrat or demon rat. They still believe this in the old paradigm. And Trump understands he needs to, on one level, he needs to communicate to the Fox News crowd, to the people who are still in the matrix, who support him, but who have really no concept of what's coming. They have no idea. They have absolutely zero clue that we are involved in the greatest struggle in the history of our universe. That we are involved in a galactic struggle, an epic battle, a war of proportions that nobody has any clue. And depravity and wickedness and evil and filth that you couldn't even possibly imagine and would never want to in your deepest, darkest, most wicked and sick nightmares. It goes far beyond what you could even comprehend, folks. How dark and empty and devoid of light these creatures are. And the people who are still plugged in, the people who still have their freaking TV on, they're the ones that Trump has to present this facade to. And but more and more, I think people are understanding that it's not about Republican, it's not about Democrat. That's what Trump is showing us. All of these, these rhinos, these people that are supposed to be representing the people, the will of the people, are completely ignoring it. The people who have sworn allegiance to the Constitution and ran on this platform that they were going to uphold the Constitution and uphold our rights and be voice of the people. And what happens? What happens when the rubber meets the road? That's what they're showing us. That's what this pantomime is. This whole thing is an unfolding so that we can have success in the courts, folks. So that we can piece our system back together. That's what people need to understand. It's done to show everyone that our system is beyond being pieced back together at this point. There is no justice unless these people are forcibly removed. And that is what's been happening. That's what's been going on behind the scenes for years now. And what we're seeing is this devolution it's a pantomime, and it's showing us what the cabal had planned for us, and it's also slowly dripping out. And as time goes on, it's going to get more and more intense. The revelations to the public of what has already been done. Because I do believe that this war, primarily, most of these battles were fought in 2017 and 2018, folks. And what we're seeing right now is for public consumption. It's all so that people can understand that this world has been completely captured by these people. That there's no justice, not even in America. Not even in the land of the free, the home of the brave, are we going to get a free and fair election. The white hats are showing us that despite all of this information, despite all of this proof, I mean, it's amazing. All you have to do is listen to Dr. Sheba for 30 seconds and you know that the mainstream narrative is bullshit because he debunks every single point. But do people want to listen to that? No, they just want to be told that everything is fine and it's all a lie. But heck, I mean, you can't deny it, folks. You can't deny it anymore. If you're trying, if anybody is out there, and I know they're not listening to me, but if anybody is out there and they're still trying to tell you that election fraud didn't happen, and that it doesn't exist, and it's a big myth, and it's a big conspiracy theory, and it's a big nothing burger, well, I got news for you. It's not a nothing burger. There was a margin in one county, in one state, a margin of 11,000 and change, and there were over 200,000 ballots at the end of the day that were fraudulent, folks. All of the evidence is there, and they're telling us that there's no evidence? And people are believing that there's no evidence, that it's a nothing burger? Are you kidding me? Wake up! A nothing burger? It's just unbelievable to me. I don't understand how people can still be listening to this nonsense. And I certainly don't understand how people that are on our side can get sucked in to this FUD, this fear, uncertainty, and doubt, that all of a sudden, we had these massive revelations come out, and you see, nothing's happening. I mean, you've got to be kidding me. If you really thought that all of a sudden it was just going to be boom, EBS, then you're not looking at this situation in the right way. You do not have a realistic outlook on what needs to occur. It's going to happen, folks. The EBS will be triggered. This is going to happen. The comms blackout, all the things that we've been talking about, I guarantee you are going to happen, but they have to happen on the right timeline. And we are not in charge of making that decision because we do not even have a fraction of the information necessary to be able to make that type of a judgment call. We're operating on frustration and anger because we want it now, and I do too, folks. I'm just like you. There's a part of me that wanted that EBS to go up as well, and does every single day. But I also understand I'm not in a position to make that call, and I also understand that it's not even about it's not about saving this system. You see, that's the thing. I mean, Trump had this big banner, "Save America." And there are a lot of people out there who still think that that's what this is about. It's about, yeah, on one level, it's about that. But it's certainly not about saving the America that you understand and know, or you think that you know and understand. That's not what this is about. This is not even about America. This is about the entire world. This is about the human race. This is about everything for all the marbles, as Juan O'Savin says, right? Casino Royale. And yet, there are still some people who think that it's about saving America. That somehow we're going to restore the integrity of our institutions and we're going to do all this stuff. And it's going to be done through the system the way it currently is. That's not going to happen, folks. The system needs to come down. This is devolution. And the people need to witness, they need to understand, they need to figure out once and for all that they do not live in a country that has freedom. We're not really free. We don't really have the ability to get justice in this system because they control every single lever of power. Except, thank God, for our military. The people at the top and the rank and file, the real patriots. Thank God they were. Yes, sure, they infiltrated it. I mean, look at Milley, for God's sake. And he's just one of these clowns. But I mean, the core, the rank and file of our military and the generals, the people who are in control of the big guns are patriots. And our people in military intelligence are patriots. And that's the reason that we had a chance, folks. And thank Heavenly Father above. Because every other institution, every other organization is corrupt to its core. And I don't know what percentage of people actually believe that and know that, but it's climbing on a daily basis. 107 keeps putting out, the number of 80%. And we need to hit that critical mass of 80% to avoid having a civil war. I don't know what the actual percentage is. I don't know where we are versus where we need to go, but I certainly know we got to be pretty freaking close at this point. But there are still people, I don't think, who understand how broken the system is. And more importantly, it's one thing to recognize that the system is broken. It's another thing to acknowledge that you're not going to fix it. You can't fix a broken system with a broken system. You need to demolish that system. Because the people need to understand that they don't really live in a republic, a free republic. And we need, and the people who still think that they do, they're going to learn, because they're going to see all this information, all this evidence is just going to flood out. And this is again, folks, this is just round one. This is just Maricopa County. This isn't even the worst of it. This pales in comparison. Trump even talked about it last night. Georgia's way worse. And heck, we're probably going to find out there are other states who are even worse than that. This is just the beginning. But some people think that the more evidence that comes out, the closer we're going to get to having justice through our system. It's not going to be that way, folks. We're going to witness more and more and more injustice. The truth is going to come out, and simultaneously we're going to be experiencing pain and pain and pain and pain and more pain because we're not getting any justice. And the people are going to get more and more and more frustrated and angry and upset. And eventually, we're going to be like the French and get our asses on the street every single day, every single Saturday. What is it now? 11 Saturdays in a row that the people have just descended upon France, upon Paris. Eventually, that's what we're going to get to in America, because people are going to realize there is no justice in this system. And they're going to demand intervention. And that, I believe, is when we're going to get the EBS. We have to earn that EBS. That's kind of the way I look at it, folks. A lot of people just want to sit back and they just want to wait for it to come on. I don't think it's going to be that way. We're going to be pushed right to the precipice. And yes, I do believe there, like I talked about yesterday, we're going to have military engagements, very likely a strike on the United States, or what appears could be a nuclear strike. We're going to have a stock market crash. Am I saying all these things to spread FUD, to spread fear, to spread uncertainty, doubt? No. In fact, I'm telling you all these things because this is truly what I believe. And if people understand and know that it's coming, they'll be in a position to lead the rest of us through it. But spreading FUD is more just, this idea that, see, nothing's going to happen. And, just to kind of create this doubt in people that there's ever going to be any kind of real intervention. There's never going to be any real justice. And to get them to start questioning Q and to get them to start questioning the plan in general. Look, I'm not going to sit here and lie and say I've never had those moments. I've talked about those moments, okay? But always, at the end of the day, I've had faith in Q. I've always had faith in this plan. I've always had faith in Donald Trump. No matter what they say about him, no matter what they say about Q, no matter how much propaganda they push, no matter how many lies, no matter how many weapons in their arsenal, I believe, because ultimately I believe that our Heavenly Father is calling the shots, literally. And that we are waiting on the hand of God. And God is going to be the one who's going to make the decision about when the people have finally had enough. And we need to remember that it's not about our own personal experience, about how much we've had and that we've had enough. I know we've all had enough. Are you kidding me? All of us have had enough in this audience. But we're talking about, it's not just about us, it's about this entire world. And more specifically here in America, how many people do you see taking action, taking to the streets, engaging in civil disobedience? We're seeing it rise, but we're certainly not at the level that they are in Europe, in Australia. And that's where it needs to get to. Here in America, Americans need to stand up. We need to be the ones who take a stand, who take to the streets, not to be violent, but as a show of force and solidarity. What we stand for in this country is freedom. And what we stand for is justice, fair elections, integrity, and honor. And we need to be willing to put it on the line. And if this is really going to be our country, we need to take our country back. And how many times have I said this? How many times have I said that people need to stop complaining and get active? Your anger doesn't mean jack shit if you're sitting on the couch or you're sitting there and you're not doing a damn thing to make any kind of difference. In fact, it's probably more harmful than it is good. And am I talking to people in my audience? God, no, I'm not. But certainly you know who I'm talking about. There's a huge contingent of Americans out there who are good people, but who haven't figured it out yet. That this is not a spectator sport. If you want to see justice, if you want to see freedom exist into the next generation and the generations that follow, and you don't want your kids to be slaves or worse, well, then you need to start getting more active. Use your anger productively. I'm not here to tell you what to do, but I'm here to remind you that you got a role to play. It doesn't matter who you are. All of us have a role to play. But that's where I do believe it's headed, folks. I think that we need to get pushed. They're going to push us as far as they need to get us out of our trance, to get people to put skin in the game and to get out there in force, not to be violent, not to start a fight, but to send a message. I mean, do you see what they did in Romania? You see how many people took to the streets in Romania? They closed, 70% of the freaking population showed up and said no more. And what did they do? They backed off. They shut it down. And it's happening all over Europe. Why? Because the people are standing up. So if you're here in America, you want to see change, that's what it's going to take. These people, they're not getting things done over there through sitting there and letting everything go through a legal process and, sitting back and chewing their fingernails and hoping that things go their way. No. They're demanding it with one voice, as one people. And that's the problem here in America, is that, we're so divided currently. But I do believe that as the days and the weeks go by and people witness more and more and more and more of this savage injustice, of this gaslighting of the people. I mean, look, I have a pretty good idea that I think I know what's happening, but it doesn't change the fact that when I read Governor Doug Dickhead Ducey tell us that it's all over, I get angry. Yeah, I get angry. I think it's a part of the pantomime. But that's the whole point of the pantomime. It's to get us angry, folks. You think the white hats are going to get us angry by giving us what we want so that we can sit back and let them do all the work? I mean, somebody put out, I think I reposted it on my Telegram, if that were the case, and they just came in and saved the day, and Americans didn't have to do jack shit but sit on their ass like they're used to, how many decades would it be before we're right back where we started? Before some new clown comes along, some new group, some new evil. We can't have that. We just can't. We can't afford it. This needs to be painful. I mean, it is painful, but the worst is yet to come. The best and the worst. The worst is yet to come, and then after that, the best is yet to come. But people need to brace themselves, I'm telling you, because it's going to get worse. You're not going to get the justice that you're looking for through this system. This is about devolution. So what we have to do is we celebrate. What I do is I celebrate the truth coming out. I celebrate the information being put into the public domain, regardless of what the mainstream media does or doesn't do, regardless of whether or not the EBS pops on instantly or it doesn't. Because I recognize that this ultimately, at the end of the day, is a spiritual war that's being played out primarily at this point as an information war. And the information getting out there is a major, major victory for Patriots, regardless of what they do, because at the end of the day, this is a chess match. And God wins. We already know that. We've already chosen a side. And boy, oh boy, am I proud to be on this side. It's the greatest honor of my life to know that I've sided with the Lord, one way or another. And that you have as well, and that we're on this journey together. So God bless each and every one of you. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. Let me know what you thought of today's chat. Remember to subscribe to all of my different platforms. Again, YouTube, BitChute, Podbean, and Rumble. And also, of course, join my Telegram if you haven't done so already. And I will be back soon, God willing, with another report. Godspeed to all of my Patriots worldwide, to all my brothers and sisters. Stay strong, stay in prayer, stay faithful. And I'll be back soon with another report. God bless. Patriot out.